Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're cutting through the noise to explore something really fundamental to, well, being human, storytelling. From just a casual chat to your latest social media post, stories are genuinely how we connect, how we persuade, understand the world.
Yeah.
And this isn't just about entertainment, right? It's a really powerful tool. Super essential, I think, for anyone looking to communicate with more impact.
Precisely. And stories aren't just like a way to dump information on someone. They're how we share lived experience in a way that actually resonates deeply.
Sure.
So yeah, this deep dive will uncover why stories have such power, how they've changed over like millennia,
Right.
what makes a genuinely great narrative, and probably most importantly, how you can harness this ancient art for much more impactful communication in your own life.
So our mission here is to pull out the crucial insights from, all the stuff we've looked at, giving you a really clear picture of storytelling's enduring power. Let's just jump right in. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit. Why do stories have such a grip on us? I mean, you might forget where you parked your car. Happens to me all the time. But you can probably quote lines from a movie you saw like years ago. It feels like our brains are just, I don't know, hardwired for this stuff.
They absolutely are. Your brain, it doesn't just process words when it hears a story. It lives it. There's this thing called neural coupling.
Neural coupling, okay.
Yeah. So if a story describes someone sprinting through a forest, parts of your motor cortex might actually fire up.
Wow.
Or you hear about a really tangy lemon and your sensory cortex kind of tingles. Your brain literally synchronizes with the storytellers. It's like you're on the same mental wavelength.
That's incredible.
It's a really profound level of engagement, actually.
So, okay, that brain activity, that explains why stories are like memory superglue then. Why they stick so much better than just, I don't know, a list of facts.
Exactly that, yeah. Stories act like memory magnets because they give us context, they give us meaning, that they provide this sort of structured framework our brains just love.
Right.
Think about it, memorizing a grocery list, kind of tough. But a story about you racing through the store for a surprise dinner party, suddenly those items stick because they have purpose, right? They fit into this dynamic sequence.
Makes sense.
And this isn't new. I mean, ancient cultures totally relied on oral storytelling. That's how they passed on survival strategies, history, long before writing was even a thing.
Right. Beyond just memory, though, you mentioned stories being emotional bridges. How do they build that connection?
Yeah. Because facts, they tell, right? But stories sell through emotion. It's about feeling. So when you hear about a character's struggle, your brain releases oxytocin. People often call it the empathy hormone.
Right, the trust hormone.
Exactly. It fosters trust, connection. There's research showing that narratives evoking things like joy or awe or even sadness, they make people much more inclined to trust the message and, importantly, to act on it.
Okay, so like those charity ads.
Perfect example. A statistic, 1 in 5 children is hungry. That's sobering, sure.
Yeah.
But a story about little Mia who dreams of being a doctor, but she skips meals so her siblings can eat, that's what moves you. That's what makes you want to donate.
Yeah, that hits different. It goes beyond just empathy, too, right? Like, stories actually shape our worldview. Sometimes they seem to just bypass our logical defenses. How do they manage that?
Well, they kind of invite you in. They ask you to suspend disbelief for a moment and just see the world through someone else's eyes. Think about Aesop's fables, like the tortoise and the hare.
Sure.
It teaches persistence way more powerfully than some lecture ever could. Or think about To Kill a Mockingbird, how that reshaped views on justice for, like, generations.
That's a great point.
Yeah, if someone hits you with a logical argument you disagree with, your defenses shoot right up.
Totally.
But a story, it kind of slips past all that, makes you feel, makes you experience something, and often that leads to a shift in opinion much more effectively than pure logic ever could.
That is powerful. Stories bypassing our filters, which I guess explains why they've been so critical throughout history. And this is where it gets really interesting for me. How has this fundamental need, this human thing, to share experiences, how has it evolved over, like, millennia?
Oh, it's an amazing journey. If you go way back, like 30,000 years ago, early humans weren't just, grunting about the hunt.
Right.
They were painting these incredibly vivid scenes in caves. Lascaux in France, those are primal stories, survival, bravery, warnings about danger. They weren't just pretty pictures, they were fundamental narratives.
Yeah. Okay, 30,000 years ago. Then fast forward a bit. Ancient Mesopotamia, maybe 2000 BCE, and we get the Epic of Gilgamesh.
One of the oldest written narratives we know of.
And it's tackling these huge universal themes already. Friendship, loss, what it means to be human. They were asking the big questions, even then.
Absolutely. And remember, before writing was widespread, you had these incredibly rich oral traditions. Think ancient Greece, the bards like Homer reciting epics.
The Iliad, the Odyssey.
Exactly. Or in West Africa, you had griots, who were these esteemed keepers of history, telling stories through song and speech. And these stories weren't static, they evolved with each telling.
Right, they were living things.
And often super practical. Aboriginal Australians used songlines that were essentially living maps embedded in stories. Polynesian navigators used incredibly complex star stories to navigate vast oceans.
That's incredible. Not just myths, but actual tools for survival and navigation. So then the written word arrives, and later the printing press. How did that change the game?
Oh, it was a total revolution. Scribes, in Egypt, China, they preserved tales for centuries. But Gutenberg's printing press in the 15th century, that democratized stories on a whole new level.
Made them accessible.
Massively. Suddenly, books like Don Quixote or the Canterbury Tales could reach huge audiences, really shaping cultural identities. And by the 19th century, you see novels becoming this real force for social change. Think about Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol.
Yeah, prompting actual reforms around poverty.
Exactly. Stories started changing society in very direct ways.
And then, boom, the 20th century hits, and it just blows the doors wide open with radio, film, TV.
Precisely. Radio created these shared national experiences. Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast caused panic.
Right.
Film and TV created these massive cultural phenomena like Star Wars. And now, today, the internet. It's fully democratized storytelling. Anyone with a smartphone can share their experience globally, like instantly.
That skateboarder video.
Yeah. That viral 2020 video, the guy on the skateboard, Fleetwood Mac, cranberry juice, pure spontaneous storytelling reaching millions. The medium keeps changing, keeps evolving, but that core human need to connect through stories, that stays constant.
Okay, so wrapping our heads around all that history in psychology, what does this actually mean for you listening right now? What are the key ingredients? The things that make a story genuinely great, whether it's, an epic novel or just a quick anecdote you tell a friend.
Yeah, understanding these elements really helps anyone become a better communicator. So let's break it down. First, you need a relatable hero.
Okay, relatable. Not necessarily a superhero, then.
Not at all. Usually the opposite. A character with flaws, aspirations, quirks. Someone you can see a bit of yourself in. Think Harry Potter. Yeah, he's got magic, but he's also awkward, uncertain, feels out of place. That's what makes him relatable. That connection hooks the audience.
Right, seeing a piece of ourselves in their journey. Got it. What's next?
Second, compelling conflict. This is basically the engine that drives the story forward. It keeps you turning the page or listening intently.
Conflict. Okay.
And it can be external, right? Like an adversary, a ticking clock, a monster. Or it can be internal. Self-doubt, a moral dilemma, a difficult choice.
Like Katniss in the Hunger Games.
Perfect example. She's not just fighting for physical survival. She's wrestling with huge internal conflicts about sacrifice, rebellion, morality. The key is making the stakes really clear. What does the hero stand to lose or gain?
Okay, so relatable hero, compelling conflict. What else makes a story really stick?
Third, emotional depth. A story without emotion is, well, it's like a meal with no seasoning, just bland.
Oh, yeah.
Great stories have to evoke a genuine response. Laughter, suspense, hope, sadness. Think about Pixar's Up, that opening montage.
Devastating.
Right. It taps into these universal feelings of love and loss, often without a single word of dialogue. Just brilliant emotional storytelling.
Yeah, that sequence is something else. Okay, what's fourth?
Fourth, a clear arc. Basically a recognizable structure, a distinct beginning where you set things up, a developed middle where the conflict unfolds and things get complicated, and a satisfying end, a resolution.
Beginning, middle, end. Setup, confrontation, resolution.
Exactly. This structure mirrors how we naturally process life experiences. Even for just a brief story, like, that chaotic trip you took to the airport, it needs that sense of journey and completion.
Makes sense. Gives it shape. Number 5.
Fifth is vivid details. These are the little things that make the story come alive. The sensory details. Instead of just saying, it was a tough day, you describe the feeling of rain soaking through your socks or the coffee stains spreading on your favorite shirt.
Show, don't tell.
That's the classic advice, yeah. Use sights, sounds, smells, textures. Think about Hemingway's famous 6-word story. For sale. Baby shoes. Never worn.
Oh, yeah. Packs a punch.
Incredible emotional resonance achieved through just a few Very specific, devastating details.
Powerful. Okay, and the last one.
And finally, number 6, the best stories often tap into a universal theme, something bigger than the specific plot. They connect to fundamental human experiences we all understand: love, courage, loss, belonging, betrayal, redemption.
So even a personal story can resonate widely if it touches on one of these themes.
Absolutely. Even if you're telling a story about, say, struggling through a difficult exam, it can connect to that broader universal theme of overcoming setbacks or perseverance. It gives the specific story a deeper meaning.
Okay, so relatable hero, compelling conflict, emotional depth, clear arc, vivid details, and universal theme. That's a fantastic framework. Now, let's make it practical. How can you listening apply this power? Let's start with, say, professional life, at work.
Oh, absolutely crucial at work. Stories can totally transform a presentation or a pitch, go beyond just the dry statistics. Remember Steve Jobs unveiling the first iPhone?
Yeah.
He didn't just list the technical specs, he told a story about a revolutionary device that would change everything. He created desire through narrative.
Right, it was theater.
And think about leadership. Harvard Business Review has found that leaders who share personal setbacks, stories of vulnerability, are actually perceived as more authentic and trustworthy.
That's interesting. So maybe try starting a meeting with a brief story.
Yeah, instead of just diving into the agenda, maybe share a quick story about why this particular project genuinely matters to you, or a challenge the team overcame previously. It builds connection and motivation.
That makes a lot of sense. And in education, stories have always been key there, right?
Oh, totally. Good educators know this instinctively. Instead of just rattling off dates and names for a history lesson, share a letter from a WWII soldier filled with his hopes and fears.
Makes it real.
Exactly. It brings history alive, gives context to the facts, helps students retain information because it's embedded in a human narrative. Same for explaining complex concepts. Good analogies are essentially mini-stories.
And then just in our personal lives, obviously. We're telling stories all the time. Remember that crazy road trip?
Yes, and those stories are what deepen connections with friends and family. Sharing experiences, funny moments, even vulnerable times that fosters empathy and intimacy. You're sharing your authentic self.
So a practical tip there.
Yeah, here's one. Next time you're at a social gathering, instead of defaulting to the usual small talk about the weather or work, try sharing a brief, meaningful little story about something that happened during your week. Could be funny, could be insightful. It often opens up surprisingly deeper and more interesting conversations.
I like that. Okay, one more area. Public speaking, often terrifying for people. How can stories be the ultimate secret weapon here?
Oh, they're a total game changer for nerves and engagement. There's research from places like Toastmasters showing that speeches incorporating personal stories are significantly more engaging, like 30% more.
Wow.
So instead of opening with a dry statement like, today I'll talk about resilience, try hooking them immediately with a narrative. Start with something like, I was 22 years old, completely broke, sleeping on a friend's couch, when I received the phone call that irrevocably changed everything for me.
Okay, now I have to know what that call is about. Instant attention grabber.
Exactly. It pulls people in immediately.
Right. Now, the landscape has totally shifted with the internet's social media. How do stories even survive, let alone thrive, in this age of, like, super short attention spans and constant noise?
It's adapted, definitely. One key way is through micro-storytelling, delivering that emotional punch or narrative arc in a really small space.
Like super condensed.
Yeah. Think of Humans of New York, a powerful photo paired with just a few sentences of text. It encapsulates these universal emotions, a whole life sometimes, in just a brief moment.
Right.
So instead of just posting, had a great vacation, maybe try something like, watch the sunset, turn the ocean to fire from the shore, barefoot, wondering what waited for me back home. Brief, evocative, human.
And obviously, these platforms are incredibly visual first.
Totally. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they leverage our visual nature.
Yeah.
Travel vloggers showing the vibrant chaos of a market, workout influencers showing the grind. Even memes are often miniature visual stories with a setup and punchline. The key is often pairing those visuals with at least a hint of a narrative arc.
And digital platforms also allow for audience participation now, right? Kind of blurring the lines between storyteller and audience.
Yeah, that's a really interesting development. You see it in choose-your-own-adventure style games or interactive films like Black Mirror, Bandersnatch, where viewers actually shape the story.
Right.
Even on a smaller scale, you could try it yourself. Maybe post a poll on social media. Found this mysterious locked wooden box in my attic. Should I try to open it? Let your followers guide the mini narrative. It creates engagement.
That's cool. But there's this tension, isn't there, between algorithms often pushing for engagement, which sometimes leads to this really curated, perfect-looking stuff, and audiences who say they crave authenticity. How do you balance that?
That's a huge challenge. But consistently, the data, like from the Edelman Trust Barometer, shows that people trust real stories from real individuals much more than polished corporate messaging.
So lean into the realness.
I think so. Ditch the pressure for impossible perfection. Share the raw, honest moments. A behind-the-scenes glimpse of a project going wrong, a humorous mishap, a moment of doubt. That authenticity often cuts through the digital noise much more effectively.
And stories are also huge drivers of social impact, aren't they? Like genuinely moving the needle on big issues.
Oh, absolutely. Think about the ice bucket challenge. It wasn't just a silly stunt. It coupled those viral videos with incredibly moving personal stories from people living with ALS and their families. That human connection raised over $115 million for research.
Incredible.
Or think about movements like Black Lives Matter. The sharing of personal, often harrowing accounts was crucial in humanizing systemic injustice for a wider audience. Brands leverage this too. Patagonia tells compelling stories about environmental action. Stories make issues human, and that motivates action.
Yeah. And of course, cultural nuances must play a massive role in how stories are told and received around the world. It's not monolithic.
Not at all. Storytelling forms, conventions, they vary immensely across cultures. You have communal oral traditions, like the West African griots we mentioned, which contrast sharply with the Western emphasis on individual authorship and written media.
Right.
Preferred themes can differ too. Maybe social harmony is valued more in one culture, while individual heroism is central in another. Even humor. Humor is notoriously difficult to translate effectively across cultures.
That's true.
And this all leads to a really crucial point, especially today: ethical storytelling. It's so important to credit the origins of stories, especially if they're from a culture not your own, to understand the context, and critically to avoid perpetuating harmful stereotypes when you share culturally inspired narratives.
That's a vital consideration. So thinking about the future then, where is this all heading? How might storytelling evolve with new technologies?
Well, we're starting to see glimpses. VR and AR storytelling could offer truly immersive experiences. Imagine walking through a virtual representation of a refugee camp to understand a crisis on a deeper level.
Wow, that's intense.
Then there's AI-powered storytelling. It's likely going to be a powerful tool for brainstorming, generating ideas, maybe even creating certain effects. But human creativity, emotion, that ethical judgment, that will remain absolutely central.
So AI is a tool, not a replacement.
That's how I see it, yes. We'll probably also see more collaborative storytelling, where audiences have even more input in co-creating narratives online. And echoing the previous point, the importance of ethical storytelling is only going to grow. In a world grappling with deepfakes and misinformation, transparency, accountability, telling stories responsibly, that's going to be paramount.
Absolutely. Okay, well, to really bring this home, let's look at a few real-life examples where storytelling just had a massive, undeniable impact.
Okay, let's take Nike's Just Do It campaign. It's so much more than just a catchy slogan, right? For decades, they've told powerful stories about athletes overcoming incredible obstacles, facing down challenges. Think about the Colin Kaepernick ad, for instance. They link the brand to these deep, universal values like courage, perseverance, breaking barriers. It's storytelling as brand identity.
Yeah, very powerful. Who else?
How about Malala Yousafzai? Her personal story, a young Pakistani girl shot by the Taliban simply for wanting an education, became this incredibly potent global call for girls' education rights.
Her book, her speeches.
Exactly. Her memoir, her UN speeches, they powerfully humanized a complex global issue and inspired millions to act and advocate. Her story became a symbol.
Truly transformative. One more.
Let's look at Dove's Real Beauty campaign. For years, they've challenged narrow, often unrealistic beauty standards pushed by the media. They did this by telling stories that celebrated authentic, diverse beauty. Remember their Real Beauty Sketches video?
Oh yeah, that went viral.
Hugely viral. By telling those kinds of stories, they built immense trust and loyalty, connecting with consumers on an emotional level about something deeply personal.
Great examples.
Okay.
So for everyone listening right now who's fired up thinking, yes, I want to do this, I want to tell better stories, let's give them some concrete, actionable things they can try, like actual exercises to hone their craft.
Absolutely. Let's get practical. First exercise, the 5-minute story. Simple. Set a timer for just 5 minutes. Quickly write down or even just outline a small recent experience you had. Could be a funny moment, a minor challenge, anything. Just try to hit that basic setup conflict resolution arc.
Okay.
Then if you can, share it with a friend or colleague. Just get some quick feedback, low stakes, quick practice.
Nice and easy to start. What else?
Second, try the emotion swap. Write a short story, maybe just a paragraph, about a joyful moment. Then rewrite that same exact scenario, but change the goal to convey sadness or maybe fear. Focus on altering the specific sensory details, the character's actions, the tone of the language. I smiled broadly might become my smile felt rigidly plastered on my face.
Ooh, that's a great way to practice controlling the emotional impact.
Yeah.
Very cool. Next.
Third, the one-sentence hook. Challenge yourself. Can you craft a single, compelling opening sentence for a story that immediately grabs attention and makes someone want to know more?
Give me an example.
Okay, I bet. The day I accidentally discovered a stranger's detailed, handwritten diary hidden inside my own backpack, my ordinary life turned completely upside down.
Whoa. Okay, yeah. I need to know what happens next. That's a fun chat.
Right. Makes you focus on that initial impact. And finally, number 4, story swap. Pair up with a friend or a colleague, agree on a common theme, maybe a time you took a significant risk or an unexpected encounter, then take turns sharing your personal stories on that theme. Pay attention not just to your own telling, but really listen to their style, what works, what doesn't. Great way to get immediate feedback and diverse perspectives.
Love that. Collaborative learning. Now, people will inevitably hit roadblocks. What are some common hurdles folks face when they start trying to tell more stories, and how can they, get past them?
Good question. Probably the biggest one is just fear of vulnerability. Sharing personal stuff can feel exposing.
Totally.
The key is to start small. You don't have to share your deepest secrets. Focus on the lesson learned or the universal aspect of the experience. And remember, often it's that vulnerability that actually makes the story relatable and powerful.
Good point. What about keeping it concise? People can ramble.
Oh yeah, rambling kills stories. For conciseness, try jotting down just the main bullet points before you tell the story. What's the absolute core? And practice editing. Aim to cut down your initial draft or telling by maybe 20%. Be ruthless.
Okay, trim the fat. What if you're facing a tough audience? Maybe skeptical or distracted.
Right, engaging tough audiences. That's where that strong hook comes in again. Start with something immediately attention-grabbing, a surprising fact related to your story, a provocative question, and maybe try making it interactive. Ask some questions during the story. Pull them in.
Get them involved. Last one. Avoiding cliches. Stories can sometimes sound stale.
Yeah, avoiding cliches is tough. It requires conscious effort. Strive for fresh, specific descriptions. Instead of saying, I was really tired, try something concrete, like that example. My eyelids felt as though they were weighed down by tiny bricks. Read widely, too. See how other writers and storytellers use language effectively.
Great tips. So as we kind of circle back here, bringing it all together, journeying from those ancient campfires right up to today's flashing digital screens. What's become incredibly clear, I think, is that storytelling is way more than just some useful skill you can learn. It feels more like an inherent human superpower.
I think that's a great way to put it. It really is. It's how we make sense of this often chaotic world. It's how we forge those deep connections with each other. And it's absolutely how we inspire action and drive change.
Yeah.
And ultimately, remember, it's not really about achieving some kind of technical perfection. It's fundamentally about being genuinely human, sharing a piece of your unique experience and opening yourself up to connect with the experiences of others.
That sums it up beautifully, really. And it leaves us and everyone listening with maybe one final important thought. What's your story? What's a story that only you can tell? Maybe just try telling one today, even if it feels small or insignificant. Maybe it's about that time you missed the bus but ended up discovering something wonderful down a side street you'd never explored before. Or maybe it's about the exact moment you realized what truly matters most to you in your life, whatever it is.
Share it.
Yeah.
Share it. You might be genuinely amazed, I think, at how even a simple, honestly told story can spark a connection you didn't expect. Maybe evoke a knowing laugh, build a little bridge of understanding, or yeah, even sometimes initiate some kind of profound change, big or small. So keep practicing, keep sharing those stories, and just watch how they start to illuminate the world around you.
Yeah,